Losing isn't allowed. That is the Emperor's fate. This single quote encompasses Akashi Seijuro, the captain of the generation of miracles, wielding the unbreakable and invincible Emperor. Today we're going to talk about Akashi Seijuro, the most unique personification of the strongest, being the undisputed emperor of sports manga. Shout out Michael Kaiser, we're just not talking about Blue Lock today. Akashi is presented as the final boss for Kagami and Kuroko, wielding the Emperor, a visual ability utilized by Akashi that allows Akashi to see the future. In actuality, this isn't future sight. The Emperor enables Akashi to perceive every slight movement of the human body. Breathing, pulse, sweat, muscle contractions, everything about the opponent allows Akashi to make predictions that are so accurate that everyone in the series just refers to it as future sight. This is not an exaggeration, as Akashi is just able to see the future movements of players in the manga itself, along with the fact that in Kuroko no Basket Extra Game, we do see that Akashi with this Emperor is able to see muscle contractions themselves with an X-ray-like POV. The extent of this power and how Akashi uses it being so supreme that even Kagami in the zone isn't able to get past Akashi's Emperor. The pinnacle of what a basketball player can reach is not enough to dominate the Emperor of Rakuzan. While the ability itself is strong, many characters in the series itself make it very clear. Even if you just gave the Emperor to somebody else, they wouldn't be able to use it like this. Akashi isn't invincible because he has the Emperor, but rather how he uses it. This being equally rooted in Akashi's upbringing and how he is as a person. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's get into how Akashi Seijuro came to be and everything about him. For those unaware, there are multiple personalities residing in Akashi Seijuro. He has dissociative identity disorder or multi-personality disorder. It's what it sounds like. There are multiple personalities inhabiting one body. The way it's presented, Akashi has non-possession. That means the identities themselves are less known to others. You might feel a sudden change in your self-identification as if you're watching yourself in a movie, an out-of-body experience, instead of being in control of your speech, emotions, or behavior. We just know this is the case since Akashi's original personality sunk to the depths of his consciousness, never to rise again, or so it seemed. However, he forced himself to awaken, the original personality noting, if I wanted to, I could take back control right now. It would be a mere substitution, as it were. The other me would still be here in my head. In other words, the personality that is not in control of the main body is treated as a spectator of sorts. It's very important to establish why Akashi developed this disorder. Seijuro was born into the esteemed Akashi family, the elite's family long proud history made for harsh expectations. Everyone in the family was expected to stand above others and triumph in all things. Akashi's father was as strict as they come. Akashi's exemplary education began at an early age. The amount of effort it required would be too much for even most adults. He had little freedom in life. The one who supported him and helped him endure the unforgiving childhood was his kind mother. His mother would coax his father into giving the boy a bit of free time. That was how he came into basketball. He enjoyed his time on the court more than anything else. With his innate talent, he improved quickly despite his limited playtime. But one day when Akashi was in 5th grade, his incredibly supportive mother suddenly got sick and died. Afterwards, his father, as if trying to put the past behind him, only grew stricter. The amount of lessons and extracurricular studies increased, but it wasn't the sheer volume that made Akashi unhappy. It was that he succeeded so spectacularly at everything he tried. The more he succeeded, the more his father forced on him. His education moved at a breakneck pace. It was around that time he experienced a strange sensation. Between his time at school and his time at home, a rift would form. It was as if another version of himself came into being. He would move into Teiko Middle School and join the already legendary championship level basketball club. The elite team held brutal practices, but Akashi never suffered. The one absolute ideal was victory, but he thought nothing of it. It was only natural when it came to sports. More important to Akashi was that he could play to his heart's content, and the days he spent with his teammates were actually fun. But in his second year, right around the time the team won its second consecutive all-middle title, things began to change. The coach was forced to retire after suddenly falling ill, and the teams reaffirmed its dedication to winning at all costs. Meanwhile, each player started growing into their own talents until Akashi, despite being the team captain, lost control of them. The duty to win was a heavy burden. Unable to handle his teammates' growth, he panicked and feared being left behind. Before he knew it, basketball was no longer fun for Akashi. With that outlet gone, he had nowhere to run from his psychological burdens, and just like that, another support system was lost to him. With this, his other personality took hold. Basketball is the closest semblance of his support system, that being his mother, who is now gone, leaving basketball in her place. And if Akashi couldn't keep up with the other generation of Miracle members, then he would lose the closest outlet to his mother, that being basketball. The two are directly intertwined as Akashi's reprieve from the demanding lifestyle that he lived. Hence, his other personality took form and he awakened the Emperor. And from that day forth, the other Akashi maintained mental control. He pursued the virtues of victory harder than ever and led the team to the 3rd consecutive title. And with this, his original personality sunk to the depths of his consciousness, never to rise again. Akashi notes it best, that other me is the embodiment of victory itself. If he loses, if he fails in his mission for absolute supremacy, his reason for existing will vanish. Meaning, it's to my benefit if he faces off with the others during high school, I should just wait it out. If anyone can be him, it's them. We'll never be again the friends that we once were. I can never make up for the sins I've committed against them. Instead, I can accept those sins and provide them with adversity. It's also important to note this is where the anime and manga do somewhat differ on their presentation of Akashi's personalities. As Akashi notes directly in the manga, he feels like an unruly little brother at this point, mostly vanished but still hanging on. And if I let him stick around until he disappears on his own, my own feelings on the matter may waver as a result of my long absence, with him forcibly taking control of his body. So it presents Akashi's personalities as a big brother, little brother sort of situation, as opposed to two sides of the same coin. However, it's very important to note that the anime actually dictates it's slightly different, with the two personalities just being portrayed as two sides of the same coin, with Akashi actually confronting and speaking with his other personality and coming to the same conclusion that he came to in the manga. This is actually reinforced by other small changes, as Akashi was essentially waiting for his created personality to lose to the generation of miracles, whereas in the anime, he never intended to switch back. It was more so a result of him beginning to crack that forces the original Akashi to come back, as he just can't suppress his impulse to win.
だから俺など必要ないと。そうだ、お前はここにいろ、永遠に。そのつもりだった。だが今、敗北の予感がお前をきしませている。
In the manga with the original Akashi, it's I. In the anime with Akashi's created personality, it's we. We'll never be able to make up for the sins we've committed against them. It's a slight difference with the extra game more so adopting Akashi actually speaking to his other personality. In the anime, it's two sides of the same coin. In the manga, it's more of a big brother, little brother relationship. Now, it's very important to note that Akashi's upbringing made him a near perfect candidate to be a player, but also a game master in the context of Kuroko no Basket. This makes a lot of sense when you consider how the Emperor Eye as an ability, as it allows Akashi to see every minute detail with an individual, with Akashi's character also being able to see the minute talent with each individual. In some cases, even better than the individual themselves. An example of this being Kuroko's lack of presence, tied with misdirection, being Kuroko's greatest strength. However, when Kuroko begins developing flashy moves like the Phantom Shot and garnering attention during these games due to actually scoring, he essentially threw away his lack of presence and all of his talent. Amina himself actually does note this somewhat after teaching Kuroko how to shoot, but in actuality, Akashi just realized what would end up happening if Kuroko ended up developing more flashy moves and came into a position of light rather than remaining as a shadow. Most impressive though is Akashi's character and temperament on the basketball court. This being exemplified as when Rakuzan does start losing momentum to Shotoku due to Midorima and Takao's passing to three-pointer shots, closing the score gap, Akashi goes as far as to score on his own team, reprimanding his team for slacking off. Did you start relaxing when we took a big lead? So much so that a few points from them have you ready to turn tail? Perhaps your performance will be a bit less unsightly if it's a closer game. In that case, my decision to shrink the lead myself was the right one. Cool your heads. Should we lose, feel free to blame me. Because of the shot I just made now, I'll take full responsibility and quit the team immediately to pay for my sin. I'll gouge out my eyes and present them to you. As insane as this is, it identifies two main traits with Akashi: how much of a leader he actually is and his ability to read his team and the situation at hand, being even more impressive when you consider 3 of the 5 uncrowned kings are playing on Rakuzan, and Akashi's win or die mentality. This is noted by other players. Winning is the same as breathing for Akashi. It's just a part of his life. So much so that he even questions Midorima. What is losing like? I'm simply curious. Hence why he's able to make these grandiose statements, as he fully believes 100% he will win. And this is reflected in his leadership, which is intertwined with his upbringing, as because he has such an education and ability to read people, it makes him extremely suited to be a leader and read every situation and every individual. I believe the finale of the Shotoku Rakuzan game says it best. You may have exceeded my general expectations, but not my imagination. Shogi and basketball are a lot alike, with Akashi controlling the entire game, purposely moving slower in the first half, subtle enough that Midorima didn't notice, so that Akashi could begin to intercept Takao's passes to him and thus end the game, as if Midorima cannot get the ball, then they cannot close that giant score gap with those high projectile threes. Shotoku as a team just realizing that we've all just been dancing in the palm of Akashi's hand. So you essentially have the most unbeatable weapon in the series tied with the individual who is able to use it to its maximum potential. This being the case with the Emperor, which is unstoppable in one-on-one situations, being visually shown with Akashi performing ankle breaks on everybody he comes across, even zone players, or Akashi controlling the tempo of the game and advancing with his team as a whole, as he is the team's point guard. Point guards, for those unaware, are responsible for high-level passing, elite ball handling under pressure, high basketball IQ, and on-ball defense. Something Akashi is very suited to, especially when you consider point guards are generally or traditionally smaller, quick, and agile, Akashi himself sitting around 141 pounds. But what about when this playmaker's team begins to fail him? This is where Akashi decides to seize victory by his own hands, being one of the few individuals to identify his trigger into the zone state. The other individuals being Kagami or Aomine, who are aware of their zone state triggers. Akashi himself actually figures out his own trigger after seeing the match against Aomine and Kagami. This state is our ace in the hole, and such a move is only to be used when Rakuzan is truly in danger. One more thing, consider this a warning. Everyone has his or her own trigger for entering this state. In my case, it's not about maneuvering my players to victory, but rather the will to break away and act on my own. Essentially, when I decide to rely on my own strength alone, when I lose faith in you people and leave you behind. Stopping Kagami from sinking Meteor Gem, Akashi enters the zone. In this state, Akashi proceeds to solo the entirety of Siren, even the spectators making note of how he's making Kagami look like a complete beginner. Total domination from Akashi Seijuro. His teammates going as far as to say abandoning us is actually what made him stronger. He's enough of a monster to make us question why we're even here. No, forget about questioning, we're totally unnecessary. It doesn't matter how fast you are, how high you jump, when his reflexes kick in after what they're going to do, they just can't fight his foresight. How does Siren overcome this? Well, they overcome it with Kuroko bringing his own Emperor to the table. A quasi-Emperor that allows Kuroko to see Kagami's movements farther into the future than Akashi's Emperor can. It's important to note this only works with Kagami due to the history and long playtime the two have together. This being Kagami in the zone and Kuroko's quasi-Emperor being the perfect combination to actually defeat Akashi's Emperor, as its only limitation is that it allows Akashi to see the future of one player at a time. With this, Akashi actually loses for the first time in his life. Due to his Emperor getting overtaken, Akashi actually loses for the first time in his life, which is why he ends up so rattled in the game itself. This is when his personalities begin to speak to one another. You're at your limit, and this game is far from over. Don't be ridiculous, I can't possibly lose. You don't have what it takes to win this, not anymore. Give it up. I always win, I always have, and always will. Shut up. Honestly, I never thought I'd see the day. It's like you're a totally different guy than the one I met on that roof. It's like, who are you even? Those words. Mayuzumi was simply saying what was on his mind. None of it came from a deep understanding of Akashi, and yet those words were the catalyst he needed. I'm Akashi Seijuro, of course. Switching back to the original personality. With this, Akashi plays in a way much more befitting of a point guard, passing to his teammates with high precision passes that enable them to make the perfect shot. Even more so, he re-enters the zone, but only to the same extent that he was a little while back. He hasn't changed that much himself. However, the other four are a different story. With this, the entire team of Rakuzan are in the zone. It's noted to be a lesser zone state. If players are normally able to draw out 80% of their abilities and the zone raises that to 100%, these players would be in the 90% range. The players receiving Akashi's passes are moving better and better. Countless passes are made during the course of a game, but perfect passes in the strictest sense are rare. Most decent passes are still a little off in terms of the speed, arc, or timing, and the receiving player has to compensate to make it work. Just as Mibushi's rhythm was thrown off by a particularly bad pass, the opposite can happen. Good passes create good rhythm, and taken to the extreme, perfect passes create perfect rhythm. That perfect rhythm allows players to perform to the best of their abilities. There's no need to compensate when a perfect pass is given. A player can now devote all of their focus to the next move. Akashi's wide field of vision and exceptional aptitude for basketball give him a complete understanding of both opponents and teammates. Boosting his entire team to 90%, this is actually the closest thing we see in the series to the true zone, that being the second gate that Kagami was able to break through. Akashi putting his entire team in the zone, being faced off against Kagami and Siren in the true zone, actually highlights a big point in the series itself, that being that team play can surpass an individual's talents, with the final match in the game being two teams who are working together in order to come home with a victory. Despite all of this though, Siren does end up taking home the Winter Cup, with Akashi losing. Now, this isn't the end of Akashi's story or progression, as we actually see in Kuroko no Basket Extra Game that Akashi actually switches back with his previous personality due to being faced off against another point guard and individual who can see the future, that being Nash Jr. in his Belial Eye. The reason Akashi actually switches to his alternate personality is due to the Emperor Eye being the real Mii's ability. To use it, it may be necessary to switch places with its owner. When Akashi switches to his alternate personality, it is noted directly, if he's our ally, there's no one more clutch than the Akashi standing before us right now. Akashi taking on Nash Jr. and switching the tide of the match back into Vorpal Sword's favor. It is worth noting that the Emperor Eye in and of itself is actually incomplete, and that Nash Jr.'s Belial Eye is on another level, due to it not being restricted to one player at a time, with Nash Jr. being able to see the future of the entire court, that being 9 other players at one time. However, this isn't the full story. The Emperor Eye in and of itself is actually incomplete. Due to this, Akashi's created personality actually merges back with the original. I believe this can also be interpreted as Akashi healing, as due to having lost, he no longer has that stress of having to succeed absolutely with the victory or death mentality that was more so pushed on him at a younger age. This same trauma and thought of losing being what actually caused the Emperor Eye to awaken and his personalities to split fully. Nash is truly strong. As things stand, will surely lose. However, when I first witnessed his Belial Eye, in addition to being shocked, the possibility occurred to me. The Emperor Eye is not inferior, but rather, could it be that the Emperor Eye was incomplete from the very start? The explanation is simple. It is because we are split into 2 separate entities. And that is why I must vanish. I shall return everything to you in order for us to return to one complete being. Of this I am confident. The court vision required to flawlessly throw the ultimate passes, if you combine that with the future seeing Emperor Eye, you will certainly obtain power that exceeds even that of Nash. Is there no other way? Do not worry, from the very beginning, mine was an existence that was never meant to be born. Being able to play with everybody one last time, to me there could have been no better parting gift. Thank you. And with this complete Emperor Eye, Akashi surpasses Nash's court vision and gazes into a farther future than him, stealing the ball away, leading to Midorima shooting a high projectile 3. Having his back pressed against the wall by Akashi and the rest of Team Vorpal Swords, Nash himself is intent on stalling out the clock. However, due to the difference Akashi makes with his completed Emperor Eye and Kuroko stealing the ball, Team Vorpal Swords comes out with a W. The insanity of Akashi Seijuro and everything behind him makes him almost feel like a Blue Lock character as opposed to a Kuroko no Basket character. But let me know what you guys think. Do you agree he's one of the more unique depictions of the top tier in his respective verse? I also do plan to do a Who is the Strongest in Kuroko no Basket video. So like and subscribe if you enjoyed this type of content, want to see more videos. If you want me to continue doing these types of videos, definitely let me know down below, and I will catch you next time. Bye-bye.